Wondering how you can become better at running your business? Entrepreneurship can be stressful. There's too much to do and not enough time. If you're isolated in your daily decisions, have no fear. Success and balance are possible. Welcome to the Small Business Answer Man podcast, where you master the art of running a successful business using practical advice from experts who want to help you succeed. Now, here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Welcome. We're glad to have you back today again for another great guest and another great podcast. I told you my goal in this third quarter. I wanted to find guests that's going to make a difference for you, the business owner, for your business and your life. And today we're really going to concentrate on the business, but it works in your life, because if you take care of your finances in your business, it's going to make things so much better in your personal life. So I'm so excited to have John with us. But John, if you would you share with our listeners, what problem will you help them solve today?
We're going to make strategic decisions using your fractional CFO as a finance coach.
And that becomes so important, because how do you make those strategic decisions? And really, the finances of your business drives everything. It drives our personal life. It drives our stress load. It drives all those different areas. So I'm excited to have John Hannum with us. He's a CFO who has spent his corporate finance career growing companies exponentially. He is now the founder and the CEO of PPS Solutions, which brings the power of large company finance to small and medium-sized businesses that need it most by adding an experienced CFOs to their teams on a fractional basis. John, it is great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Gary. Appreciate it.
Let's start off, because for some small and medium-sized businesses, they probably have heard the term CFO. So Chief Financial Officer is what that terminology is. But can you share with us what a CFO is and how that's different from their CPA or their accounting firm that they have?
Sure, that'd be great. A CFO is a person who runs the finance division. The finance department represents the finance perspective at the table, at the executive table, basically in the boardroom, in the office with the team. So you really want that person to be making decisions at an executive level. It's a little bit different than your CPA. It is the same financial skill set. We all know the numbers and can understand the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet and all of the numbers, but it's a little bit different perspective in that their skill set and focus on operations. So, we look at the operations through the lens of numbers. When we're having conversations and all the management is sitting around the table and making the decisions, the CFO brings the financial perspective of what those decisions are going to mean and helps to make those decisions. Normally businesses don't necessarily keep their CPA involved in all those decisions. So the CFO is really an integral part of the team versus somebody that you just call to make decisions or do the tax return at year end.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, because of course we've talked about some already this third quarter, but the people I'm looking for and really that I work with is people that are growing and scaling their company. And this is when a CFO becomes so crucial. They're important all the time, but it's really crucial in growth, because if you're going to have growth, what happens? Your operations normally increase, and that part of it becomes a real challenge. So I think it's really important, and you've worked with large companies in that area, how a CFO can make a difference. And like you said, they're a person at the seat at the table. They're helping you see those things that you're doing, how it's going to create it. And then we're also seeing in the business world, we have to do things more efficiently, especially the larger you get. Otherwise, you can get a lot of overhead and a lot of bloat, as they said, and that can create where that profit margins go down. So that's why it's so important. So when we look at the part of finance and kind of the finance picture, how does that really, for the entrepreneur and the business leader, need to know, what does the CFO bring and how can they be that beneficial side? Instead of looking at it as an expense, they look at more as it becomes an investment that they must make.
That's very true. The CFO really represents that finance perspective at the table. As I mentioned, from the coaching side, they're going to bring some level of tough love and keeping you to your accountability, your goals. That person's going to really organize themselves into helping you achieve those goals. Certainly, as businesses grow, there's a lot of complexity, and with complexity comes risk. So we want to make sure that we mitigate that risk. As you grow from, as you grow at any level, uh, the levers that you have to pull, the number of levers you have to pull is more, right? And every lever that you pull has a different risk. So if you fix something in one side of the business, you might break something in another side. And a CFO can help you understand what those implications are going to be. Somebody that's been around the block, somebody that's done it before can say, "Oh, wait a minute, don't pull that lever. It's this is what's going to happen, or this is what could happen," and you make better decisions together. So they're going to help you to get where you're going to go, and they're going to help you get there safely. So certainly you can look at cost savings as a valid vessel for saving, for paying for the service. But really there's a risk mitigation as well. The value that we provide is keeping your business on that steady vision of success rather than having an issue.
Yeah, and that becomes so crucial, especially like we said, as you're growing your organization. And you talked about the levers, and I've heard before, sometimes we'll talk about in terms of what's those KPIs, the key performance indicators, so you really get a good understanding of where you're at in your financial, because people have a hard time. And most business owners, I will tell you, John, and you probably know this already, so I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I know for most business owners, they are not very good at the finance side of the business. The accounting, any of that area, that is not their strength. And they need someone on their team, a trusted advisor that they can use.
Well, and it really shouldn't be, unless you're running an accounting firm or doing something in the finance space, where I think you would need to understand finance at a different level. You should understand what you do and what you're really good at. And usually it's vision, it's whatever you've created, it's the thing that made you successful in the first place. So, what the CFO brings is to help you, get to that vision of success. The CFO brings the numbers, right? We can look at KPIs, and you have to understand what those KPIs mean. But the CFO can help you analyze the KPIs and get to the result that you want to get as well. They don't hand you KPIs and walk away and for you to make your own decisions. They're helping you say, "Hey, this is what this means, and this is what we can do about it." If profitability is down, do we increase price, or do we look for a cost? Do we increase volume? What do those KPIs really mean, and how do you react to them is the service that the CFO provides.
Yeah, and that becomes crucial in a business. So that becomes the key that we've really got to look at. And I love what you're talking about is really they're helping the CEO really live out their vision. And I know for some small business owners, sometimes they forget they are the CEO. They're the chief executive officer of their company. Even if it's a smaller company, if you're not acting in that role and sharing what that vision is and putting that vision out there, but you need the right people on your team in the right areas to help you achieve that vision, to be able to achieve it that you've talked about in this area. We're talking about in the financial area that's there. So how can, you've talked about several different ways that they can, but how can that CFO make a big difference for them to really help that business owner achieve their vision and achieve the success they're looking for in their business?
Yeah, of course. I think that the biggest way that they help is actually to be involved in the business. And I'll give an example. So, if the business owner comes with a vision, makes their own business plan, decides what they're going to do, and brings that to the CFO, sure, the CFO can put together a budget and a forecast to say, here's what we're going to do with it. But by actually partnering together during that business planning and saying, I want to do this, this, and this, and then discussing the financial impacts of that and working towards that plan together, the CFO becomes invested in that plan and understands it to the level to a greater level than would have been possible if they had just been presented with the plan. So, that partnership to me is key. You have to execute with the CEO, with the founder, with the entrepreneur, so that you can actually understand that. Then when we analyze those results, we made the plan, we go and we do it, analyze the results, we can actually kind of understand what happened a little bit better and make plans for the future. Did things work the way that we expected them to work, or did they not? And what does the future look like? Oh, we were wrong on a number. We need to reforecast that number and figure out what we can do about it. That's really the magic of what a CFO brings in value to the CEO, is to be part of their process.
We're going to have more on this discussion, but we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and burned out in your business and life? Discover the Clarity Navigator. This system is your key to achieving your most elusive goals. Here's how it works. Through one-on-one coaching, we'll tailor a plan to your unique needs, helping you manage your workload, avoid burnout, and make the most of your time. We'll delve deep into your vision, gain clarity on your goals, and map out a 3-year plan for your business and personal life. We cover the vital areas like health, relationships, professional growth, financial stability, spiritual well-being, and continuous learning. Setting clear 3-year business goals and KPIs is our foundation. We break these down in achievable annual goals, each with 90-day targets and action plans. Say goodbye to stress and burnout. Take action now to join the Clarity Navigator program. Invest in yourself and your business and start living a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Achieve success on your terms with the Clarity Navigator. Go to show notes and click the link and step toward the life and business you've always dreamed of. And now back to the show. Well, I love what you talked about there, and it really becomes so crucial and stuff. But I think one of the things, let's talk a little bit more about that CFO, as using them as that strategy person and how valuable that can be for the business owner to really scale their business.
Sure. The idea behind a CFO as a coach, I think of coaches as somebody that cheers you on, rah rah, but it's different than just a rah rah coach, right? Coach is somebody who helps you review your performance and get you back on track, right? You look at the tapes of what you did. If you're in football, you're gonna look at the plays and make the X's and O's on the screen and watch what happens, and then say, did you do that right? Yes, no. Here's how we could do better. That's what a coach does. So CFO is no different than that. They're going to look at your numbers, understand with you, what actions we should take, and really work towards that strategy. And that's different every day, right? If you just needed to be coached on one play, you could just replay the tape, and every game would be perfect in the future. You really do need a CFO that's going to work with you through the scenarios of every day in your business. Every day is a little bit different. You're going to encounter different challenges. And that CFO brings a wealth of knowledge to help you through those challenges. Hopefully they've had that experience in that finance function before.
Go ahead.
Oh, in certain businesses I've had, we've gone from management challenges one day. The next day there's a pricing discussion because our margins aren't exactly right. That we might have a supplier cost increase the next day that we have to react to, and we're dealing with negotiating some pricing or cost increase. There's some challenge every day that's going to come up, and that the strategy of the CFO is just to help you through that.
Yeah, it really helps you understand the problems. And the problem with a lot of business owners, they sometimes feel like they're on the island. No one understands them. And if you use this correctly, now you have someone on your team that's going to really help you through it, and becomes that, we've talked about trusted partner, but where that person is on the executive team and you're making decisions based off of really facts and data and information versus off of gut instinct for the business owner. I think that's so important. I think the other thing, we've talked a little bit about this, but we didn't get as deep as I wanted to, is really about how entrepreneurs and business owners, they're kind of lone wolves, John, and I'm sure you've seen this already with the people you've worked with and stuff, and getting them to truly understand how can they use their CFO to their maximum benefit, and understanding what they do need to know when they do hire if it's a fractional CFO or a full-time CFO, what they bring to the table, because there's certain things you don't want them to do, right?
That's true. I think that the CFO, obviously represents the finance function and helps through every situation. So no matter what comes up, you can, there's a finance perspective, and the CFO can represent that. But when that person, staying in their lane, I mean, I've had a lot of experience in culture and management and HR and all those things as well. But there are people that are more experienced in that. So when I stick to the lane of finance, it's better, and we can help present that finance perspective. When we do that, we're bringing both numbers and product to the table, and I think the CEO needs to understand some of that, right? We can't be totally oblivious to the idea of what those numbers mean and what the finances are, but they also don't have to understand it all, right? They don't have to wear that hat because they have someone who can speak in English to them and present those numbers and what they mean to a better to a good level, right? They have to come into the process and understand what the terminology means, et cetera. But any CFO that's giving you alphabet soup for answers and leaves you more confused is probably not providing a good service. You know, you don't want to get into analysis paralysis where you're looking at tons of numbers and really overlooking at things. Your CFO can help guide you into the numbers that you want to use and say, these are the important things that we're going to look at now. Those may change over time, but as simple as you can make it, it's going to help you run the business more effectively. If you start looking at every number and every KPI, you're just going to get lost.
Yeah, I think that's so important to really know your numbers, know what the information you do need to know, but you don't need to know the drill down effect. And sometimes people get too much into the weeds, that's for sure. And that's not going to help your business any. John, one thing that keeps coming to my mind, I'm thinking the listeners are thinking about or thinking in their back of their mind, and maybe it's as simple as maybe I ought to have you really explain, because I know they're hearing this term some out in the marketplace, but not everyone understands this, especially small businesses, because they've not done it in the past. It's becoming more common. But when we talk about fractional CFO versus a full-time CFO, can you kind of explain that differences of, being able to get somebody fractional on your team where, when you don't need that full-time person, how beneficial this still can be to help you grow your organization?
Yeah, of course. The fractional CFOs are really becoming more common, which is awesome, because I think they're really a needed thing in the marketplace. There's 33 million small businesses in the U.S. by all accounts that could use somebody in the finance chair, but don't have a full-time CFO. So there's a huge need for it, and I'm happy that people are coming in to fill that need. A lot of those people are CPAs, so they've been doing taxes, they have the financial acumen, they go into that space. I prefer CFOs with a operational background versus that, but anybody that can help you get the finance perspective is better than nothing. And so when we talk about fractionals, there's a few different models that I'd like to kind of talk about, and you can decide which model is right for you. Before the word fractional became popular, there was kind of part-time, right? You could have a part-time CFO, and that person might come in 1 day a week or 2 days a week, or whatever the right ratio of time was. Now there's a lot more options out there. A lot of firms like mine do the subscription model. So you might have access to a CFO and your reporting package, and you have a CFO kind of on staff. In fact, your customers, your clients, your vendors may not even know that person is fractional. They just represent themselves as your CFO, and I think it gives your business a little more legitimacy and air of being a little larger than it is, which could be beneficial. But for a small, certainly a smaller than full-time contribution subscription rate, you can have a CFO basically on your staff. I like that model in particular because it doesn't mean you have to sit in the office for 8 hours a week and maybe do things that aren't really CFO work. You want your CFO focus on strategy, understanding your business, not doing journal entries and making those KPIs. So the way that we do it is we have a CFO that supports X number of businesses. and then a support staff that works with them. So your financial planning and analysis, your budget that might be prepared by and worked with a financial analyst, and that way your CFO can really focus on just giving you the strategy. So part-time is an option, subscription is an option. And then I think there's a consulting model that's interesting, but could be a little bit more expensive, where you're paying just for the hours that you're using, and that person has to submit a timesheet and understand what they're doing during that time. It's like managing a part-time employee, but that rate is usually a little bit high. So those are some of the models that current firms are using to get a fractional CFO. The benefits of the fractional CFO are good for every business. You're having somebody that you can have those conversations with. They're going to hold you accountable. All the things we've talked about as the benefits are not just for large business anymore. Any business basically can afford, almost any business can afford a CFO these days.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you really sharing and breaking that down for us, because I think it's so important that people understand. And sometimes I'll be honest, I get on the podcast and I do it myself. We assume that other people know. And, I know this service has been out there a while, but there's a lot of people that's never done it. And they've never thought about it in their business, especially business owners. And they really want them to understand the benefits that they could have with that and how it could make a difference in their business. Because, let's be honest, most companies have someone doing bookkeeping work. And then they turn their numbers over at the end of the year and they get a report and stuff. But if you're trying to scale and grow a business, if you want your business to be the same this year as it was last year and you're happy with that, maybe a CFO won't be the greatest thing for you because you don't want to grow. But if you're trying to grow an organization, it becomes critical that those key levers that we talked about earlier, and that you have a CFO that's jumping in and sharing with you and seeing some of the trends and going over those with you, because then you can make the adjustments that you've talked about so much in this podcast. So I kind of want to end it with, and kind of coming up that time, always when there's a great conversation that goes on, is how can you yourself, as the business owner, I'm the business owner now, how can I make myself successful if I hired, you gave some good tips there earlier about that, a fractional CFO service out there. How can that really make me successful as a business owner?
I think that's a really a great recap. So how to make yourself successful by hiring a fractional CFO? First, you have to hire the right one. So there, we could do an entire podcast on this. There's a process, and I think that they're all really important attributes we need to look at. But cultural fit and personality are probably the number one. You have to know, like, and trust the person that you're going to take financial advice from. So if you get on the phone with somebody, if you get on a Zoom, you have them in your office, and you don't like them, don't hire them. It's just going to be bad. They really need to espouse the same values as you and your organization. So if you have your values stated, you should align those values up with your CFO's values and make sure that they support those values, and that you have a value fit. I do think industry experience is key as well. So, if you're in the construction industry and you're hiring somebody from film and television or aerospace, they're probably not going to be very good. You need to really understand the accounting and the KPIs driving your business. So, we have our CFOs only support businesses that they have experience in running. And then the hardest thing to hire a CFO is to understand the skill set. So someone, an accounting professor that did say, if you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, baffle them with your BS. That's, people do that, right? It's going to be out there. People are going to try and just tell you, here's my 10 keywords, and I'm really smart. Sometimes it's good to have a test. Sometimes it's good to have some type of assessment for the person that you're bringing in. Now, obviously, firm reputation is big. References and other customer testimonials, et cetera, can, if they've done it before, they're going to have good references. But you can always, if you're just hiring a part-timer, you can use a skills test. I like Caliper and some others that really test the not just the IQ, but the ability of somebody to reason and think through processes, et cetera. So I wouldn't be above using a test to check your CFO. And then the second thing you can do after hiring the right one is to treat them as part of that team, right? We talked about the difference between the CFO and the CPA, being on the team versus somebody that you call in random situations. You really need to treat that CFO as part of your team, and almost like a doctor, you have to have very frank and real discussions with them. If you go to the doctor and you don't tell them your symptoms, you're probably going to get a treatment that's not right. So having real frank conversations with the person in that chair, and really opening yourself up in a way that you don't to maybe other, you don't have to talk to the marketing people quite so directly, but the CFO needs to understand your finances. I think if you do those two things, you can have a really successful relationship with your fractional CFO.
Super. Great information. Thank you for sharing that and be willing to let people really understand what they need. Because that's the thing, of business owners, they've never hired one. They don't know what they need. And it's really about making you successful, your company, because that's going to be the benefit of having the fractional CFO. One thing, John, of course, is in this line of industry. That's why we ask him as the expert to come on and share his information. His website is ppsfinance.com. We'll have it in show notes so you can easily link there. One thing John said he would do is kind of a call to action. Anybody that wants to ask questions about finance, they can book a meeting with him. You can email him, you can call him. We're going to have that in show notes. So his website has all that information. I looked at your website earlier. There's a lot of great information on there that you can learn from him and be able to take that and reach out to them and really check into this. Because if your business is growing, I would tell you it might be the time to look at this, because that's what takes you from maybe 1 million to 5 million, and 5 million to 10 million, 10 million to 50 million. And sometimes people think, oh, I don't know if I can do that. If you have those dreams, those aspirations, and you're starting to really grow, but if you don't take care of your finances, I'll guarantee you one thing that will happen: you won't grow. You'll grow, but then you'll fail at some point along the path, and then you'll be back to zero again. And I've seen it too many times with business owners, John, when they start growing and expanding, their operations gets too big, and then as soon as business falls off, guess what happens? There's not enough revenue to cover all those expenses that they've created. And that's what I believe a fractional CFO and a CFO can bring to an organization myself. So I really appreciate you sharing your information. They also have, like I said, their website. Go to their website. He's also on LinkedIn. We'll have that in show notes also. John, anything that you'd like to share as kind of a last piece of a parting advice before I ask you one last question?
Yeah, and part of our values, part of our corporate values, are being of service. It is our number one mission. So, even if we can't help, even if we're, it's not a good fit for a fractional CFO service, I love being of service. I love helping small business to grow. So, book an appointment, ask us questions, send us an email. I'm happy to engage with anybody that has questions and wants to know about finance. Um, really appreciate being of service, and yeah, it's one of our core values.
Yeah, and I can tell that because you're an educator, just like you've done on this podcast. And that's the thing. He's doing this as a no obligation. He's going to tell you about his services and stuff, but he's also going to answer your questions. That's one thing John made a big note of. Said, I'm willing to talk to him. Even if we're not the right fit, we're going to do it. And that's the type of people I want on the podcast. So I really appreciate you offering that, John, to my listeners. And again, their website is ppsfinance.com. We'll have it in show notes so you can easily click on the link in your show notes to be able to see all that information. John, before I let you go, I ask every guest this same question. And that question is, what's your best advice you would give to business owners?
Well, I think as we've talked about today, you don't have to do everything. You can have a fractional CFO. You can have, some marketing help. You can do all the things that you aren't necessarily good at on a daily basis with outsourcing. And I think you should really focus on running your business for the vision that you had in the first place, the vision of success of what you wanted it to create.
Yeah, some great information. Thanks again for joining us today, John.
Thank you, Gary.
Well, I want to tell you, I always leave you with an action item. My action item for you is, Does your company need a fractional CFO? Do you need to understand more about your finances? I'm not saying about the little bitty details, but do you have the big picture of the levers that you need? Is that something you need someone to give you? Because maybe your bookkeeper is not able to give you that. Maybe your accountant, you're passing over that information, and we're going to come up to the end of the year real quick because we're in third quarter, and they're giving you your numbers back that you give them, but they're really not giving you the advice that you need to really help you take your business to that next level. That's where this comes in. And business owners that understand that, they're the ones that scale their business to the next level. And I've seen it time and time again with the business owners I look to. I remember when I was doing a couple $1 million of business, and at the end I was doing $15 to $20 million of business. It's totally different running a business that's bringing in a couple $1 million than one that's bringing in 20 million, because you have a lot of other pieces that's on that, and the finances become so critical in that. So I want that for each one of our business owners that's listening today. So again, all the information on show notes, check out his website, check out all the information. Like John said, he's willing to give you a call, so reach out to him. Again, if you like this podcast, let other business people know about it, and please like and share it and let others really take the information in just like you are. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll be back next week with another guest. Make it a great day. We'll see you next week.
That's all the time we have for this week. To continue your journey, head over to smallbusinessanswerman.biz to access the tools and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with someone who would benefit from listening. That's smallbusinessanswerman.biz. Until next time, remember, when you find the right solutions, your business grows, and you get your time back.